The glowing screen of my phone illuminated the dark living room, casting long, wavering shadows across the walls. My brother Spencer's latest social media video looped for the 5th consecutive time. It was a 360-degree drone shot sweeping over the top deck of a luxury Caribbean cruise ship. Crystal blue water stretched endlessly toward the horizon. Shimmering under the tropical sun, waiters dressed in pristine white uniforms carried silver trays of expensive cocktails past a massive, sparkling infinity pool. My eyes bypassed the scenery and locked onto the background. Right there, lounging on white leather deck chairs and clinking oversized frozen margaritas together, were my parents. The betrayal hit with the force of a physical blow, driving the breath from my lungs and leaving me gasping in the quiet room. Just 12 hours earlier, my mother had called me sobbing hysterically. She swore my father was completely bedridden with severe, life-threatening heart complications, claiming they were entirely out of financial options. I panicked. My chest tightened with the terrifying thought of losing my father. My hands shaking as I navigated my banking application. I emergency wired them $1,500 to cover the specialty medication his insurance supposedly denied. They weaponized my love to fund their poolside bar tab. My hands gripped the edge of the kitchen counter so hard my knuckles turned a bruised shade of white. The cold, hard truth finally snapped into focus, shattering decades of carefully maintained illusions. My mind instantly flashed back to earlier that same afternoon. My 5-year-old daughter, Paige, stood in the center of her kindergarten classroom wearing a tiny blue graduation cap. The other children clustered around their families, holding bouquets of grocery store flowers and posing for endless pictures. Paige kept standing on her tiptoes, her small hands clutching her rolled paper diploma, her wide eyes darting toward the heavy wooden doors. She was waiting for her grandfather. My husband, Garrett, knelt beside her, his jaw locked tight to hide his simmering rage. He gently wiped a stray tear from her cheek and pulled her into a fierce, protective embrace. Watching her tiny shoulders shake broke something fundamental inside me. We had sacrificed our entire foundation for those two people. We lived in a cramped, drafty duplex in Columbus, Ohio. The paint peeled constantly around the window frames, and the ancient heater rattled violently throughout the winter months. We ate store-brand pasta 4 nights a week and wore our winter boots until the soles wore completely through to the pavement. We counted every single penny, denying ourselves the smallest luxuries just to keep our heads above water. Meanwhile, I carried a $65,000 loan in my own name for my parents' massive, state-of-the-art luxury recreational vehicle. Their credit was utterly destroyed from decades of reckless, impulsive spending. So I signed the binding legal paperwork to save them from total ruin. I believed that was my fundamental duty. I believed daughters were supposed to bleed themselves dry to protect their families. I am a 32-year-old middle school teacher. I spend 8 grueling hours a day managing the chaotic, volatile emotions of preteens, de-escalating dramatic tantrums, and finding the quiet truth hidden behind transparent lies. My career requires boundless patience, but it also trains you to recognize pure, calculated manipulation from a mile away. Sitting in my dark living room, staring at the frozen margaritas on my phone screen, the entire dynamic of my childhood unraveled before my eyes. In narcissistic families, children are never viewed as independent human beings with their own intrinsic value. They are assigned highly specific, inescapable roles Spencer, my arrogant tech bro sibling, was the undisputed trophy. My parents paraded his massive salary and his sprawling Scottsdale estate around their country club friends like a shiny, coveted prize. They required absolutely nothing from him except his mere existence. I was the appliance. I was kept in the dark, shoved into the corner, and only plugged in when they needed to extract something valuable. Money, livor, endless pity. Whenever their reckless choices caught up with them, they pressed my buttons, dispensed my guilt, and eagerly collected their financial bailout. They never actually loved my family. They loved my utility. They loved having an invisible safety net that absorbed their failures and never complained. I grabbed my phone and dialed my father's number. The line rang 3 times before he answered. Loud steel drum music echoed in the background, mixed with the rhythmic sound of crashing ocean waves. He expected me to be calling with more desperate worry, more anxious checking in. Instead of asking about his failing heart, I demanded to know why he was currently sitting by an infinity pool in the middle of the ocean. The music abruptly muffled, sounding exactly like he had covered the receiver with his palm. He walked away from the cheering crowd. When he spoke again, there was absolutely zero trace of guilt in his voice. He sounded profoundly annoyed that my call had interrupted his vacation vibe. He claimed they simply needed a desperate break from the relentless, crushing stress of their financial situation. He insisted the $1,500 was entirely necessary because the cruise tickets were non-refundable, treating the outright theft of my daughter's graduation day as a minor, unavoidable scheduling conflict. The blood roared in my ears, completely drowning out the ambient noise of my quiet house. I brought up Paige. I told him about the hot tears staining her little face while she waited by the classroom door, searching the crowd for a grandfather who was never going to walk through those doors. He scoffed. The sound was so utterly dismissive, so completely devoid of basic human empathy. It chilled the blood in my veins. Then he delivered the lethal, unforgettable insult. He told me Spencer's life was simply more pleasant to be around. He stated, in a painfully casual tone, that visiting my cramped house was depressing and overwhelmingly stressful. He said I was their necessary safety net, but Spencer was their beautiful vacation. The sheer, breathtaking audacity paralyzed me for a fraction of a second. I swallowed the thick, suffocating lump of childhood grief residing in my throat. My gentle middle school teacher, patience hardened instantly into something entirely unrecognizable. Glacial ice flooded my veins, cooling my temper into a state of absolute clarity. I hung up the phone without uttering another syllable. The reliable appliance had officially unplugged herself. I opened my laptop and logged directly into the Global Positioning System application hardwired into the recreational vehicle I financed. The digital map zoomed out rapidly, sweeping away from the gray skies of Ohio and dropping a bright red location pin down in sunny Florida. They had driven the massive vehicle straight down the interstate corridor directly to the Miami cruise port. They burned the $1,500 I sent for Paige's crucial medication on premium diesel fuel and luxury waterfront hookups along the way. I executed my retaliation with absolute methodical precision. I searched the internet for specialized, highly rated, bonded vehicle recovery agencies operating in the Miami metropolitan area. I contacted a massive regional dealership that offered immediate, no questions asked, wholesale buyouts. By early the next morning, I was standing in front of a local notary public, firmly stamping a formal power of attorney document. I packaged my pristine spare set of keys along with the official notarized vehicle title and sent everything via overnight priority courier directly to the recovery agent. The heavily armed agent legally accessed the secure port parking lot, successfully recovered my property, and delivered it straight to the prearranged dealership lot. The dealership manager bought it sight unseen for the exact payoff amount listed on the bank draft. The suffocating $65,000 debt vanished entirely from my credit report. The vehicle was legally, permanently gone. My retaliation was only half complete. I logged into my primary banking portal, my fingers flying across the keyboard with zero hesitation. One decisive click permanently canceled the $1,500 monthly automatic transfer. Another swift click pulled up the emergency credit card accounts. My parents had taken those specific cards onto the ship with them. They explicitly linked my name to their onboard folio account, fully intending to rack up thousands of dollars in premium room service, expensive spa treatments, and top-shelf alcohol. Their twisted, calculated plan was to call me on the final disembarkation day, fabricate a massive cardiac emergency in a Florida hospital, and force my hand to cover the massive remaining balance. They thought they were brilliant, untouchable masterminds. I froze every single account permanently by shutting down the credit lines mid-cruise. I triggered the ship's ruthless internal accounting system. When a folio card declines, the cruise line immediately locks the passengers out of their cabin and cuts off all food and beverage packages until the outstanding balance is settled in physical cash. I closed my laptop screen, walked quietly into my daughter's bedroom, and kissed her warm forehead. I went to sleep peacefully in Ohio, knowing my parents were currently stranded in international waters with a massive escalating bill and absolutely no way out. 2 excruciating weeks passed in complete, unbroken silence. My phone finally vibrated violently late on a Tuesday afternoon. The caller identification screen flashed Spencer's name. I let it go straight to the automated voicemail system. He left a frantic, incredibly entitled audio message. His voice shook with pure, unadulterated indignation as he demanded to know why our parents were currently stuck in a sweltering Miami terminal begging him for expensive last-minute plane tickets. He yelled about the canceled credit cards, aggressively insisting I needed to fix the mess immediately because he absolutely refused to pay for them to live in his pristine Scottsdale estate. I typed out a single, precise sentence in response. I reminded him that he was the designated vacation and firmly told him to enjoy his extended trip. I hit send, then blocked his phone number permanently across all devices. The revered golden child was finally forced to deal with the harsh reality of our parents, and he folded instantly under the pressure. He completely abandoned them the exact second they required actual, uncomfortable sacrifice. I truly thought the nightmare was finally over. I severely underestimated the sheer relentless audacity of desperate abusers facing the consequences of their actions. The false defeat arrived unexpectedly on a freezing Thursday night. Freezing rain pounded heavily against our thin living room windows at exactly 10 o'clock. Heavy, frantic fists pounded on our front door. I crept forward and checked the glass peephole. My parents stood on the concrete porch, completely soaked to the bone, shivering violently in the bitter winter air. My mother wailed at the absolute top of her lungs, her dramatic cries echoing down the quiet, sleeping street. She sobbed uncontrollably about being entirely homeless. begging loudly for forgiveness, flawlessly playing the role of the ultimate helpless victim. The heavy, suffocating weight of my childhood conditioning surged through my nervous system. Decades of ingrained, carefully cultivated guilt flared up, screaming at my brain to fix their self-inflicted pain. My right hand trembled uncontrollably as I reached out and rested my cold fingers against the solid metal of the deadbolt. I was exactly one physical turn away from letting the toxic parasites right back into my peaceful home. Garrett's strong, calloused hand clamped down firmly over mine, stopping my momentum cold. He did not say a single word. He simply held up his glowing smartphone. The high-definition screen displayed the live video feed from our porch security camera. He turned the volume slider all the way to the maximum setting. Over the tiny speaker, cutting sharply through the chaotic sound of the pouring rain, I heard my father actively whispering to my mother. His voice contained absolutely no genuine sorrow, only calculating, predatory malice. He instructed her to keep crying loudly until I opened the heavy door. He confidently stated that he read a legal loophole on a social media website, claiming that if they managed to stay inside my house for 24 uninterrupted hours, they automatically gained legal tenant rights and the police could not legally or forcefully evict them. The remaining pathetic shreds of my childhood guilt evaporated instantly into pure white-hot fury. I connected my smartphone via Bluetooth to the two-way exterior porch speaker. I blasted their own malicious audio recording right back at them through the cold night air. The theatrical wailing stopped instantly, cut off as if she had been struck. My mother's face dropped the mask of sorrow, melting rapidly into an expression of sheer panicked terror. I bypassed them entirely and dialed the local emergency authorities. 2 flashing patrol cars arrived less than 5 minutes later. Bathing our front lawn in harsh red and blue light, my father immediately tried to play the frail, confused elderly man routine, hunching his shoulders pathetically and loudly claiming he lived at the residence and was locked out by his cruel daughter. I stepped outside into the freezing rain and handed the lead police officer a thick printed folder. It contained the official vehicle title proving they legally resided in an entirely different state, alongside the time-stamped video footage clearly detailing their premeditated extortion plot. Faced with hard, undeniable documentary evidence, the seasoned officer's professional demeanor turned completely icy. He stepped aggressively toward my father, threatening both of them with immediate physical arrest for criminal trespassing and attempted extortion if they did not vacate the premises that very second. We stood on the porch and watched in total, deeply satisfying silence as the police escorted them off the property and down the dark street. I closed the door, slid the heavy deadbolt securely into place, and finally exhaled a breath I felt like I had been holding for 30 years. Several quiet, healing months have passed since that chaotic night on the front porch. The heavy, suffocating financial burden is entirely gone from our daily lives. Paige is absolutely thriving in her first grade classroom, her bright laughter echoing freely through a house that no longer feels tense, fractured, and broken. Garrett and I recently started touring larger homes with actual sprawling backyards, actively dreaming of a secure future we finally own and control. Taking the necessary time to process this severe trauma forced me to deeply analyze the terrifying, insidious psychology of conditional love. Narcissistic parents do not view their children as distinct, sovereign individuals with their own needs, dreams, and boundaries. They view us exclusively as extensions of their own inflated egos, functional tools designed explicitly to serve their immediate desires. My intense guilt was not a natural biological emotion. It was an artificial survival program meticulously installed in my developing brain over 3 decades, designed specifically to keep me compliant, silent, and endlessly generous. Through intensive professional therapy and countless hours of quiet reflection, I managed to extract 3 profound, unbreakable rules from the smoldering wreckage of my family tree. These hard truths saved my remaining sanity, and they represent the absolute foundation of the beautiful life I am building for my daughter. Rule number 1, blood does not make you family. Consistent respect does. Toxic people absolutely love to weaponize the word family. They wield it exactly like a ruthless hostage negotiation tactic, aggressively demanding endless loyalty and total sacrifice while offering absolutely none in return. Family is a verb. It is a continuous action demonstrated entirely through consistent care, mutual respect, and shared equal sacrifice. If someone requires you to continuously set yourself on fire just to keep them momentarily warm, they are not your family. They are a dangerous parasite wearing a highly familiar face. You owe them absolutely nothing, not even an explanation for your departure. Rule number 2, the coveted golden child is simply a victim suffering from a completely different disease. For countless years, I harbored intense, bitter, consuming jealousy toward my older brother. I watched him receive endless praise simply for breathing, while I practically bled my bank accounts dry just to earn a brief nod of approval. But when the grand illusion finally shattered, Spencer's highly conditional love for our parents proved that the deep familial rot infected all of us equally. He abandoned them the exact instant they became a minor financial inconvenience, revealing a terrifying, profound lack of basic human empathy. Narcissistic households ruthlessly ruin every single person trapped inside their walls. Some children are fundamentally broken by carrying impossibly heavy burdens, while others are entirely destroyed by having their core humanity completely replaced with pure, unadulterated entitlement. Rule number 3, an abuser's desperate tears are just another calculated weapon stored inside their emotional arsenal. Standing on the safe side of that locked door, watching my mother wail convincingly in the freezing rain, I almost surrendered to the illusion polite society conditions us from birth to respond to tears with immediate, unquestioning comfort. But you must learn to sharply distinguish between genuine, heartfelt remorse and the furious frustration of losing total control. When an emotional abuser cries immediately after being caught in a lie, they are not crying because they finally realize they hurt you. They are mourning the tragic loss of their favorite, most reliable toy. They are weeping loudly because their practiced manipulation tactics no longer yield the desired profitable results. Recognizing that crucial difference is the ultimate key to maintaining your protective boundaries. Breaking a generational curse is an incredibly lonely, deeply agonizing process. It requires you to actively mourn the loving, supportive parents you desperately deserved but never actually received. It demands that you stand firm, absorbing the judgment while society unfairly labels you as cruel, cold, or intensely ungrateful. But the profound, unshakable peace waiting on the other side of that securely locked door is worth every single shed tear. I am Whitney Bennett. I am a devoted mother a fiercely loyal wife, a dedicated cycle breaker, and for the very first time in my entire existence, I am completely, unapologetically free. Have you ever experienced that terrifying, brilliant moment of absolute clarity? Have you ever realized that the person you were breaking your back to support was actually the exact same person happily holding the whip? How did you finally find the tremendous strength to cut toxic cord and walk away forever? Please share your survival story in the comments section below. Speaking the ugly truth destroys the lingering shame. And breaking generational curses truly takes a supportive village. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there thinking, why on earth did she carry a $65,000 loan for people who treated her like a household appliance? Why did she keep sending them $1,500 every single month? Why did she wait so long to finally snap? Let me stop you right there. Whitney was not stupid, and she was not weak. She was conditioned. In psychology, we call this the slot machine effect or intermittent reinforcement. When you grow up in a toxic family dynamic, the abusers do not treat you terribly 100% of the time. If they did, you would just walk away. Instead, they drop tiny crumbs of hope, a rare compliment, a decent holiday dinner, a fleeting moment of peace. It acts exactly like a casino slot machine, paying out just enough shiny coins to keep you pulling the lever. You end up bankrupting yourself emotionally and financially, constantly chasing a jackpot of unconditional love that is never actually going to drop. But the moment the illusion shattered, Whitney woke up and delivered an absolute masterclass in financial self-defense. Let's break down her street smart moves so you can use them if you ever find yourself in this trap. First, the audit strategy. When manipulative people demand your resources, they rely entirely on your panic and your guilt. Whitney stopped reacting to the tears and looked at the cold. Hard logistics. She tracked the global positioning system. She verified the reality of the situation. Scammers, even the ones who share your last name, absolutely hate verified data. Second, controlling the asset. Notice that she did not call her parents to threaten them with the recreational vehicle. She did not file a messy, illegal stolen car report that would have backfired on her. She held the legal notarized title. She utilized a bonded recovery agent and a wholesale dealership. She executed a perfectly legal surgical financial maneuver that erased a massive debt without ever giving her abusers a chance to negotiate. Third, building the case. When abusers lose control, they experience an extinction burst, like showing up on a porch in the freezing rain to play the ultimate victim. Whitney did not open that door to argue her point. She let them confess on a hot microphone. When the police arrived, she did not yell or plead her case. She handed the officer a physical folder containing a legal title and time-stamped video evidence. Listen to me, law enforcement cannot do anything with your tears, but they can and will act immediately on a solid paper trail. Finally, the buyout. Whitney froze those emergency credit cards mid-cruise and canceled the monthly transfers. She understood that buying her long-term freedom meant enduring the short-term chaos of their retaliation. She stopped funding her own destruction. Here is the ultimate verdict. You can never heal in the exact same environment that made you sick. Sometimes the most profitable investment you will ever make in your entire life is writing off the bad debt of toxic relationships. Your peace of mind is your most valuable asset. Protect it ruthlessly. Have you ever had to legally or financially untangle yourself from a manipulator? Drop your survival strategies in the comments below. And make sure to hit that subscribe button for more street smart advice on protecting your wealth and your sanity. Stay safe. and stay smart.